Hi, Erin. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Thanks for coming in today. We're just going to talk a little bit about the Strong Interest Inventory SSI that you took a couple weeks back. We're just going to essentially go over the results, see kind of what they mean, what that looks like. It is obviously geared towards looking into your interests. But there's going to be potentially some things that you agree with, and then there's going to be some things that you don't agree with, but that's okay. We'll be able to talk through as we go. But this is just one tool that you can use as far as us looking into your future career. So don't feel like you're married to it, you're devoted to it, you signed a contract. This is, just something to take into consideration, okay?
Okay.
So just tell me if you can remember back to when you took it. Tell me a little bit about what your experience was like.
It was extensive.
Okay.
There was a lot of questions. I remember that. And it took a little while. There seemed to be some redundancy in the questions that were asked on it. But for the most part, it wasn't anything overly difficult to answer. Everything seemed pretty straightforward and stuff like that. So
okay, good. It's actually designed in such a way for the redundancy and all that, so you are definitely right about that. So we will see here kind of what all your results look like. Okay, so this is actually your report. So when we're all finished going through it, you'll be able to take this home with you and look it over. On this first page here, it pretty much just goes over what the Strong Interest Inventory SII, I'll refer to it as that a lot throughout, and what it means. But what it all comes down to, there's 6 categories where everything goes back to. And so as we go through, just know that everything in the SII, the SII is related to those 6 categories, okay? So just kind of starting out here, this is just the general occupational themes. It's the 6 broad interest groups, the categories that I just talked about, that describe your work personality per se. Okay, so I would say for the most people, you're not just one personality. You're kind of a mixture of here and there.
Okay.
So we'll just kind of look at those results here. So looking through here at your themes, you've got artistic is your top, social, and investigative. So therefore your theme code is ASI. Okay. And then these last 3 here, they're not going to be as high. But what sticks out to you, if anything, looking at this?
The artistic. Now I know when instructed on how to take this, we were not supposed to talk about things that we could do, but things that we were interested in doing. Now, I do have a big interest in music and art and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm good at it.
Okay.
Singing has always been something that I've done, and that's fine. But I know that part of what I do, I like to have creative components in things that I do. So I think that's where the artistic comes from. It kind of surprises me a little bit that it's higher than social, but hey, it is what it is. Creativity, though, is something that's important to me because it helps me to stay interested. If you're just sitting there and standing in front of me, lecturing me on whatever, you have maybe 30 minutes. So if you have something that you can throw into it that makes it interesting, makes it creative, you're going to keep my attention more. So I guess I can see where that came from. I'm just shocked that it's the top,
sure.
Because I would never consider myself, like it says, working activities, composing music. I would love to be able to say that I can compose music, but realistically, I can't even read music, so...
Okay. I appreciate your honesty.
The creativity, though, that I can see. Yes.
Okay. And what about social and investigative? Anything about that kind of stick out
The
to you?
social doesn't surprise me at all. I'm a people person. Every job I've ever had my entire life revolved around working with people, so that does not surprise me. Again, I remember answering these questions. There was certain things on there that talked about doing lab work, in the medical field and stuff like that. I don't know that I can do it, but it would be something that I would be interested in. I don't mind reading about that kind of thing. Neuroscience fascinates the crap out of me. So investigating that kind of stuff is interesting to me. However, am I at this point in my life at a point where I could like be a neurologist? No.
Okay.
But I can see where some of those traits would fall into things that interest me. Yes.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. So down below that then is just the levels of where that is. So obviously artistic first, social second, and investigative. Strangely enough, or oddly enough, I don't know how you want to word it, you don't actually hit
High on anything.
high or very high on anything. You are moderate in artistic and social, and then also moderate and investigative.
I call that a well-rounded person.
Hey, there you go.
I have a little bit of everything.
You do.
Instead of a large abundance of one thing.
Yeah, you are. You're moderate all the way down to real, with enterprising and realistic, with conventional just being on the little side, but that's barely being on the little side.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Yep.
Little bit
Well-rounded.
of everything.
I like it. I like it.
I like to keep my options open.
All right, so then following that, we've got the basic interest skills here, and it just points to specific activities and projects and coursework that might be personally motivating and rewarding to you. So this doesn't necessarily mean that this is something you would do as a career, but it could also be something you could do as volunteer work or as a side gig or as a hobby or whatever. So these are your top 5 interest areas. Anything stand out for you there?
The politics and public speaking, I would have said 10 years ago, absolutely not. Maybe even 15 years ago, absolutely not. Politics has become something I'm more interested in the last probably 15 years.
Okay.
I would say probably since 9/11.
Sure.
That was a big thing in my life. Public speaking, I used to detest to public speak. As I have gotten older, I do it more. I do it more in the job that I have right now. I do it in class, where I get the anxiety that goes with it most of the time. I still feel that I'm more comfortable with it now than I ever was, even in my undergrad, which I was a non-traditional student in undergrad too. So not, I finished my bachelor's degree anyways, non-traditionally. So I wasn't 18 or 19 years old. I was older and more mature during that time. And I still was less confident than I am now. However, being forced to do it at my job, you get used to. So that surprises me, and it doesn't. Because I feel that I enjoy it, but I still get that little, scared feeling in my stomach when I do it. So
Sure.
I'm glad that counseling and helping made it high up there, since that's what I'm working on.
Yeah.
The healthcare, I guess they always say that counseling falls into mental health counseling falls into
Sure.
healthcare, so I can see that. Again, answering the questions, they had a lot of things on there that were reflective of healthcare, but wasn't where I'm a nurse or a doctor, and I could see myself enjoying stuff like that because I find it interesting. I don't know that it would be something I'd want to do every day, but it is stuff that interests me, I guess, if that makes sense. And culinary arts, yeah, there was a lot of food questions on there, and I love to cook.
Okay.
If nothing else, that is definitely a self-care area for me, whether it's baking or cooking. I love to do it.
Okay.
When I get the chance, so.
Great.
So that makes sense.
Okay. Awesome. So then just kind of going down on this, you've got, again, kind of your little, moderate, high, very high, except, again, you don't have high or very high on any of these interest levels related to any of your scores, but it kind of just falls into different areas that would fall under artistic, social, investigative, and it even lists the areas which the only high remark you actually had is in enterprising.
and it falls under politics. So you can see where I sometimes get overly passionate with regard to politics. Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Yep.
Anything else on this little side of anything stick out to you? Or in a positive or negative light?
The teaching and education cracks me up. I mean, I know it's not moderate and it's on the lower end of moderate, but it cracks me up because I don't have the temperament for teaching.
Okay.
I have a lot of friends that are teachers. I married a teacher, so I believe that education is super important, and that might be how I answered some of those questions, because I do feel that is like a huge part of somebody's life. However, teaching it is, I don't have the patience for it, so it makes me laugh a little bit.
Okay.
And the mathematics even showing up blows my mind, because I am going into counseling for a reason.
Okay.
Because it's not math heavy.
All right. Gotcha.
I think that's funny.
Yeah, and this is a standard score too, so you are actually like nationally ranked against other women, which is good to know, because it's not like this is mathematics against men, which I know men are a lot of times forced into those types of fields.
Mm-hmm.
This is you against women, so
Mm-hmm.
you must really that really must not be your thing.
It's not even close. Like all of these other ones too, finance and investing and taxes and accounting. Yeah, no,
Okay.
not at all.
All right.
Those are nightmares. Jobs in that are nightmares.
So it sounds like you're very self-aware.
Yes.
In that way. So that's
Yes.
good. Okay. So then you've got the occupational scales. So these are just the top 10 occupation lists that was generated for you based on your results. So your highest level should be so artistic for you should be part of most of these. You can see that it's not part of all of them, but it is part of a good sum of them. So just kind of take a look over all those.
Artist is funny. Maybe abstract, but anything that's supposed to actually look like something I'm not very great. I don't feel like I'm very good at. Photographer, I did play around with photography several years ago or whatever, and I enjoyed that. I just don't have the equipment to keep up with the technology right now, to stay up with it. And it's really funny, the other two things on here that crack me up is radiologic technologist. That was one of the first things that I wanted to get my undergrad in, like when I was a senior in high school.
Oh, wow.
And when I started my undergrad at the University of Toledo, I went into broadcast journalism. And that's another one that shows up on here, so that's kind of funny.
Interesting.
But I am glad mental health counselor hit number 1. Woohoo.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Looks like you've got that one down pretty well.
Yeah. Advertising account manager. I guess the art I can see the advertising with, yeah. But again, business is not my forte either. I don't.
What do you think of the flight attendant?
I like to travel.
Okay.
It's a free way to do it.
Okay.
I have a friend that's a flight attendant, and she does on the downtime wherever she's at. You know, she does the sightseeing and stuff like that. It could be worse jobs in the whole wide world.
That's true.
So
that's true.
I mean, I don't know that I have kids, and I don't know if I'd want to do it for that reason, but I could think of worse jobs to have. I've had worse jobs than that. So.
Haven't we all? Yes. Okay.
So I can handle that.
Okay. Awesome. Move right along here. So then these are the occupational scales. So again, just kind of how it was on those past scales, if it's, above a certain range, you're more similar, you're more likely to be inclined to have that type of career. The lower it is, obviously the least likely to fit into your interests and whatnot. So it's just a little bit more in depth and breaks it down to a more definite level than what the past pages have gone over. Okay. So just kind of look over this and see if there's anything that stands out to you, or if there's any of these things that you've actually thought about, anything along those lines.
Well, again, mental health counseling, that one's higher than all the rest. So
it is, and it's actually like significant.
Yeah.
Like it's your only.
I know my significant thing on there is that.
It is, yeah.
So
okay.
that, and is the the politics doesn't fall in there anyway. So yeah. And then you see a lot of the other things in there: the career counselor, the social worker. They all community service director kind of still falls under there. university administrator. I'm not an administrator, but I do work at a university, so that I can see too. Faculty, there's a lot of teaching in here, and again, I don't know about that, but school counselor. So there's a lot of things that I have interest in that I can see falling in there. And this is like that utopian area. Like if you if you could be anything in the whole wide world and skill didn't matter, it would fall under this artistic thing. But that's just because I like to be, like I said, creative and stuff. I find ways of incorporating that though into the mental health stuff that I do in my classes too. So it all makes sense to me, liking to have something, or having something in my repertoire that makes it creative, so it's not the same boring.
Yeah, well, and again, you seem to tend to go around that mid-range, moderate a lot, but it is just the things that are 40 and above. And although you have a couple more options in the artistic, you only have 4 options that fall in that line in the social. And they happen to be the 4 things but then, flight attendant, hey, that's number 1.
I know.
So
I like to travel.
Yeah.
And chef. Right? Chef falls right under.
Yeah, it does. Yep, pretty close.
I like to cook, though.
That's great.
Yeah. Physicist and mathematician are in the negatives. Thank you, Jesus.
Science teacher is what? Oh, that's right at 0. Right at 0.
Really? I thought I'd do better with that than computer scientist. But
Yeah, look at that. Geologist right above that.
Dietitian, I thought about that a while back.
Okay.
And that's higher up on that investigative. I like nutrition and physical fitness is something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
You wouldn't always notice to look at me, but I do. I work out regularly.
That's great.
Nutrition hasn't been so hot lately, but those are things that I enjoy too. So.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Great. So so it goes through all, obviously, of the scales, even continued on. So you can take a look at that. So then we have the personal style scales. This is all about how you approach people, how you learn, how you lead, and as well as your interest in taking risks and participating in teams. So, obviously, just as there has been a scaling thing with this, there's a clear no, a mid-range, and a clear yes. And just as it has happened, you fall right in mid-range for everything. So, just take a little bit and look over that. So you've got the work style, learning environment, leadership style, risk-taking, and team orientation.
It seems to me like I might have issues committing. Is what it kind of looks like. Like, I don't want to lean one way too much.
Because you're well-rounded.
But it does make sense. I like to work alone, but then there's times where I would rather be with people. So I can totally get that, And there are nights where I'm in class and I'm like, just lecture. I'm fine with that. I'm not feeling the whole group thing. And then there's other nights where you need to get me up because I can't sit here any longer. You're totally have lost me like 10 minutes ago. So I get that. I'm like that seesaw person right there in the middle. And I am comfortable both leading by example and taking charge. So yeah, I like that too. I'm one of those where if I feel there's a need for a leader and nobody else wants to step up for it, I'll do it. I don't want to be the bossy, So it all makes sense. It just looks like I have an issue with commitment because I don't want to go one way or the other. I think it's kind of funny.
So since it sounds like you agree, obviously there's these personal style, skills, preferences up here, and you kind of just went through them, and it sounds like you agree with all of those statements. So would you say you're happy overall of what this says, or is there anything that you wish you would change about yourself?
No, I honestly don't, because I believe that there's a need, for me personally, a need for you to be a leader and a need for you to be a follower. And sometimes I find these things like very confining, and I don't think that you have to be one way or the other, that it's easy to be a decent mix of both. So I like that it shows that.
Good.
As funny as it is.
Good. I'm glad. All right, so this page right here, this is essentially just a summary of everything that we've gone over thus far. You know, you've got your 5 interest areas, your, you know, 10 strong occupations, obviously your highest themes, all of that we've discussed already. Okay. So now we have more suggestions for later. This is more of like a second part of it and of the SII, and this page in and of itself just, again, it's a description page, just explains what the study is about. So obviously we have, again, your general occupational themes. So we have the artistic, the social, and the investigative. So as you look over this theme descriptors here and on your profile that we've discussed this far, which one of these do you think are a good fit for you?
Well, I would say, like I've said before, okay, first of all, the teaching, I'm going to cross that off because I can't do teaching. Counseling for sure. Religion. I'm not one of those that I don't get into that kind of stuff. I'm not super practicing, so no.
Okay.
No. Entertainment. I like to entertain. I don't know that, like, for a job entertain, but so, I mean, it makes sense to me. I get all of that. Writing as a career field, I never considered myself a strong writer, so I don't know that I would have the confidence to do that. But leisure activities fall, and that artistic thing fall more into what I feel like talks about me. I'm not a big art collector, but I like to look at art and things that are pretty beautiful and stuff like that. Attend plays or concerts. That's one of my pastimes is concerts. I go to a lot of them. Visiting museums, painting, playing music. I don't paint and I don't play music, but I love both of them. It's just not something that I do. So,
Okay.
So it makes sense. Business, politics, sales and marketing. Not really my.
Yeah.
Forestry. There we go.
Well,
We have found the answer.
and this is the part where you did not score as high on either, so that's okay.
So I would agree that it makes sense that these are lower for me because none of those look like really good. I want to do for the rest of my life options.
Okay. So again, like I said from the very beginning, most of people's interests, it's not one thing, right? It's got a combination of all the things. So these are the, top theme code, artistic and social. So these are the things that they had as a suggestion for you for specific careers. Any thoughts?
I agree with the counseling.
Yep.
The teaching, we talked about dance. Journal therapy, though, I'm an advocate of journaling as part of your therapy. So that I am totally, I get, yeah.
Okay.
Again, most of the stuff that shows up there, I would say, are more things that I enjoy hobby-wise rather than making a career of.
Yeah.
So.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So then, consider your career motivators. How might they determine the kind of work environment that would be attractive to you or the kind of work you would like to do?
Like I've said, before, I kind of like how that works out. And the strongest career motivators I love expressing creativity and helping others, because that to me says it all. That's how I want to, that's the kind of counselor I want to be.
Great. And then do you think that those have been represented in your life up to this point?
No. Not career-wise so much. I believe what I do now is in the helping field. Yeah. Do I get to be super creative? No. Me as a person, possibly, yes. Just not career-wise. But yeah, my personality, yeah. I know that when I make a plan to do something, I try and find something fun that we can throw into our, me and a friend's time together or something like that. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, come on here. So, again, your basic interests. Now that you consider your interests at the most general level, it's time to focus on more of specific areas of activity, things that you like to do. And obviously, we've talked a lot about art being your leisure time, things you like to do. But oddly enough, I know you said culinary. That was listed, but there was all these other things listed as well. Anything that you think stick out to you or are present in your life currently?
I like to make all of this incorporated into what I do. For real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I believe that I have a passion for talking about suicide prevention and sexual assault prevention and those kind of things. So speaking to people on that is something that I've always, like, where in the future, where I would like to go, to be somebody who goes to different places, who has, I don't want to say expert, but decent knowledge on those areas to help advocate for those people who are suffering from those things. So I love that part of it into my counseling. And then obviously the counseling and helping falls into it. The healthcare falls into it because I'm not sure exactly where I want to do my counseling. I like the idea of wellness. So looking at medical and emotional and combining it, because you can't be healthy one way or the other. So I love that that's put in there. Social sciences, it just fits in with that too.
Sure.
I would have no problem doing some kind of workshop for therapy using culinary art as a way to, as a coping skill or something like that to help people do it. So I love that all of these things can kind of ball up together and intertwine to make like my perfect job,
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of cool the way that worked out.
Cool. I like your creative thinking on all that. See, there you go. That artistic ability is coming through.
Who knew?
So then you've got here the occupational skills, strong focus on, interests even further. So it just goes even more in depth. So just kind of glance over that and see if there's anything specifically that sticks out to you. Related for the skills and abilities needed for the specific task.
I didn't focus a whole lot on the mental health counseling because that's obvious. And they are the artist. I don't feel I have the ability. It's just, to me, an outlet, fun. The photography, I think, is interesting. I remember doing that. And again, it was just an outlet that I used outside of my everyday job to be creative. Mm-hmm. And stuff. And I remember at the time thinking, wouldn't it be great if you could make like a ton of money doing this and stuff? It's an expensive career to get into. So that's why I never progressed from there. So this would be something that if I had the funds, I would definitely like to do something like that. But, it's real random. That kind of sticks out to me.
There's not a lot of consistent. There is, but there isn't.
No, it's just very like all over. I see where they fit because of where I scored on it and stuff like that. It's like very random. So it's interesting.
All right.
I don't know if I agree or disagree. Like I said, I think it can all kind of fit together somewhere.
Okay, cool. So the rest of this is pretty much just more in depth. The more the nitty gritty than what we've already actually discussed. So, like I said, I'm going to give this to you and you can take this home and you can look at it, ask me any questions you have, and we can go over some more information. You're like, okay, now I just don't even know if I should be a mental health counselor because this is just saying I should be a politician. I don't know. Those are questions you might have, and maybe we should talk that through.
Sure.
But just want to check in with you, before you leave today. How was this helpful? Did you think it worked? Do you think it was legit? Not so much.
I honestly, I believe it was insightful to see how those things that I enjoy doing, that if I hadn't done this, I probably wouldn't have thought of it this way, that I can find ways to incorporate those things that I like into what I want to do for a living. So I think that that's really cool. And honestly, without looking at this, I probably wouldn't have thought of it that way. Yeah. So like looking at artistic stuff, I would have never, looked at myself in that way at all. But even knowing that I like to be creative, I would have never thought artistic. So it's cool that it brings that up and puts that in front of you. So I believe it was helpful. And will hopefully make me a better counselor because I understand those things about myself. So
yeah, I really like your ideas and your ability to pick different things of how you can maybe morph this all together for a future career, and I think that's really cool.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Let me know if you have any more questions.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.